You need to leave. My sister Victoria stood in the doorway of my office with her arms crossed. Her voice was cold and sharp, like ice cracking under pressure. This is my office, I said quietly. She stepped inside and shut the door behind her. The click of the lock made my stomach drop. Not anymore, she said. She walked to my desk and dropped a manila envelope in front of me. I've already spoken to the board. They agree with me. You were never really part of this company. You were just helping out. I stared at the envelope. My name was printed on the front in bold letters. What is this? I asked. Your exit package, she said. Sign it today and you'll get 3 months' salary. Refuse and you get nothing. My hands trembled as I picked up the envelope. Inside was a termination letter. It was already signed by Victoria and 2 board members. I looked up at her. She wasn't smiling, but there was something cruel in her eyes. Something that told me she had planned this for a long time. You can't do this, I whispered. I already did, she replied. Pack your things and leave by 5. She turned and walked out. I sat there in silence, staring at the letter, my heart pounding in my chest. My name is Blake Montgomery, and the company my sister just kicked me out of, I helped build it from nothing. 6 years ago, we started this business together. It was supposed to be a partnership, equal, fair. But somewhere along the way, things changed. She started calling herself the CEO. She started making decisions without asking me. She started treating me like an assistant instead of a partner. And now, she wanted me gone completely. I thought about our parents. They had passed away 3 years ago in a car accident. Before they died, they told us to always take care of each other. I wondered what they would think if they could see us now. I wondered if Victoria even remembered that conversation. I packed my things slowly, photos, awards, files, everything I had collected over 6 years of hard work. Nobody came to say goodbye. The employees avoided eye contact. Some of them looked sad, but nobody spoke up. I understood. They were afraid of losing their jobs too. By the time I left, it was dark outside. I carried 2 boxes to my car and drove home in silence. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Victoria's words in my head. You were never really part of this company. But I was. I knew I was, and I was going to prove it. The next morning, I called an old friend from law school. His name was Xavier Cole, and he ran a small practice downtown. We had stayed in touch over the years, mostly through holiday cards and occasional coffee meetings. Blake, he said when he answered. It's been a while. What's going on? I explained everything. The termination. The board meeting. Victoria's coldness. He listened quietly. Do you have any documentation? He asked when I finished. I have emails, contracts, meeting notes. I saved everything. Good, he said. Bring them to my office tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Don't sign anything Victoria gives you. Not yet. I felt a small flicker of hope. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me yet, he replied. We need to see what we're working with first. The next day, I arrived at Xavier's office with 3 folders full of documents. He sat across from me and started reading through everything carefully. He took notes. He frowned. He flipped pages back and forth. After an hour, he looked up at me. Blake, he said slowly, tell me something. When you and Victoria first started the company, did you sign anything official? I thought back. Yes, we signed partnership papers. It was at a notary office. Do you have a copy? I shook my head. Victoria said she would keep them safe. Xavier's expression darkened. We need to find those papers, he said. I spent the next 2 days searching through old files at home. I went through every box in my garage, every drawer in my office, every folder on my computer. Nothing. I started to panic. What if Victoria had destroyed them? Then I remembered something. When we first incorporated the business, we had used a service called Westfield Registry Solutions. They handled all the legal filings. I called them. Hello, this is Westfield Registry. How can I help you? Hi, I said. I need to request copies of incorporation documents for a business filed about 6 years ago. Certainly. I'll need the business name and your identification. I provided everything. Give me 1 moment, the woman said. I waited. My heart was racing. Okay, she said. I found the file. The original incorporation was filed on March 14th, 6 years ago. The business name is Montgomery Solutions LLC. Is that correct? Yes, I said. Perfect. I can send you certified copies. There's a small fee. That's fine, I said quickly. Can you tell me who's listed as the owners? She paused. The original filing lists 2 members, Blake Montgomery and Victoria Montgomery, each with 50% ownership. I felt relief wash over me. "Thank you," I said. "Please send me everything you have." She promised the documents would arrive within 3 business days. I hung up and called Xavier immediately. "I found them," I said. 3 days later, the envelope arrived. I opened it carefully and pulled out the papers. My hands were shaking. There it was, the original partnership agreement. Blake Montgomery, 50% ownership. Victoria Montgomery, 50% ownership. Both our signatures were at the bottom. I stared at the document for a long time. This was proof. This was everything. I immediately drove to Xavier's office. He read through the papers carefully, then looked up at me with a serious expression. "This is good," he said. "But we need to check something else." "What?" "We need to see if Victoria filed any amendments to change the ownership structure. If she did, and they were done legally, these original papers might not matter." My stomach dropped. "How do we find out?" "I'll request all the filing history from the state registry. It'll take a few days." I nodded, trying to stay calm. Xavier put his hand on my shoulder. "Blake, I know this is hard, but we're gonna figure this out. Trust me." I left his office feeling both hopeful and terrified. What if Victoria had covered her tracks? What if I really had no legal claim? I tried not to think about it, but the doubt kept creeping in. That weekend, I avoided everyone. I didn't answer calls. I didn't check social media. I just waited. On Monday, Xavier called me. "Come to my office," he said. "Now." I drove there as fast as I could. When I arrived, he had papers spread across his entire desk. "I got the filing history," he said. "And Blake, you need to see this." He handed me a stack of documents. "Victoria did file an amendment," he said. 2 years ago, she tried to change the ownership structure to make herself the sole owner. My heart sank. "But," Xavier continued, and his voice got stronger, "she made a massive mistake." "What kind of mistake?" He pointed to one of the pages. "She didn't get your signature. Under your partnership agreement and state law, any changes to ownership require both partners' signatures. Without yours, the amendment is completely invalid." I stared at him. "So the original agreement still stands?" "Exactly. You still own 50% of the company. Legally, she had no right to fire you." I felt dizzy. "What do we do now?" Xavier smiled. "We file an injunction. We're going to freeze all major business decisions until this gets sorted out, and then we're going to call a formal partnership meeting." "Will that work?" "It will," he said confidently, "because the law is on your side." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. Xavier filed the injunction that afternoon. By the next morning, Victoria knew something was wrong. She called me 17 times. I didn't answer. Then she showed up at my house. I watched through the window as she pounded on my front door. "Blake," she shouted, "open this door right now." I stayed inside, silent. She kept banging. "I know you're in there. What did you do?" After 10 minutes, she finally left. I waited until her car disappeared down the street. Then I called Xavier. "She knows," I said. "Good," he replied. "Let her panic." 2 days later, I received a formal notice that a partnership dispute meeting had been scheduled. It would take place at a neutral location with Xavier, Victoria, and her lawyer present. The date was set for the following Monday. I had 1 week to prepare. Xavier and I met every day. We reviewed every document. We went over every possible argument Victoria might make. "She's going to claim you abandoned the partnership," Xavier said. "She'll say you stopped participating in decisions." "That's not true," I said. "I know, and we have emails proving you were still active. She ignored you, but you didn't abandon anything." By Sunday night, I felt ready. I didn't sleep well, but I felt prepared. The meeting was held in a conference room at a downtown law office. When I arrived, Victoria was already there with her lawyer, a tall man named Preston Hughes. She didn't look at me. Xavier and I sat across from them. A mediator, a woman named Camila Torres, sat at the head of the table. "Let's begin," she said. "We're here to address the ownership dispute regarding Montgomery Solutions LLC. Miss Victoria Montgomery, would you like to present your position first?" Victoria leaned forward. "My position is simple. My brother stopped being an active partner 2 years ago. He showed up less and less. He stopped attending meetings. He stopped making decisions. I had to run the company alone, so I filed paperwork to reflect that reality." Preston Hughes nodded and slid a folder across the table. We have documentation showing Mr. Montgomery's declining participation. Xavier didn't even look at the folder. May I respond? He asked calmly. Camila nodded. Xavier pulled out his own folder. Miss Montgomery's characterization is inaccurate. Mr. Montgomery sent over 200 emails in the past 2 years requesting to be included in decisions. Miss Montgomery ignored or rejected nearly all of them. This isn't abandonment. This is exclusion. He slid the emails across the table. Victoria's face went pale. Preston picked up the emails and started reading. His expression changed. Furthermore, Xavier continued, Miss Montgomery filed an amendment to the partnership agreement without Mr. Montgomery's signature. Under both the original agreement and state law, such amendments are invalid without mutual consent. He placed the original partnership agreement on the table. This is the legally binding document, Xavier said, and it clearly shows 50-50 ownership. The room went silent. Preston whispered something to Victoria. She shook her head angrily. That amendment was filed in good faith, Preston said finally. Miss Montgomery believed she had the authority to make that change. Belief doesn't equal legality, Xavier replied smoothly. The partnership agreement is explicit. Both partners must sign. Camila looked at the documents carefully. Mr. Hughes, she said, do you have any evidence that Mr. Montgomery signed the amendment? Preston shuffled through his papers. No, but... Then the amendment is invalid, Camila said firmly. The original agreement stands. Victoria slammed her hand on the table. This is ridiculous. I built that company. Blake barely did anything. That's not what the financial records show, Xavier said. He pulled out another folder. Mr. Montgomery handled all client relations for the first 4 years. He secured 80% of the company's initial contracts. His name is on dozens of major deals. He slid the records across the table. Preston read them, then leaned back in his chair. Miss Montgomery? Camila said carefully. Did you terminate Mr. Montgomery's employment? Yes, Victoria said coldly. I had that right as CEO. But you don't have the right to terminate a 50% owner, Camila said. That's not employment. That's partnership dissolution, which requires mutual agreement or legal cause. Victoria's lawyer closed his eyes. I'm recommending immediate reinstatement, Camila said, and I'm recommending that Ms. Montgomery return all authority to the equal partnership structure. Victoria stood up. No, absolutely not. Then we'll take this to court, Xavier said calmly, and we'll win. The meeting ended badly. Victoria stormed out without saying a word. Preston stayed behind to talk to Xavier. Look, he said quietly, my client is emotional, but she's not stupid. If we go to court, she'll lose. I know, Xavier said. Can we settle this privately? Xavier looked at me. I nodded. We're open to discussion, Xavier said. But Blake's ownership rights are non-negotiable. Preston nodded. I'll talk to her. We left the building and walked to a nearby coffee shop. That went well, Xavier said. Did it? I asked. Victoria looked like she wanted to kill me. She's scared, Xavier said. She knows she messed up. Now she's trying to figure out how to save face. What happens next? We wait. Preston will try to convince her to settle. If she's smart, she'll agree. 2 days later, Preston called Xavier. They talked for over an hour. When Xavier hung up, he called me. Victoria wants to buy you out, he said. What? She's offering to purchase your 50% ownership for a lump sum. It's a decent offer. I thought about it. I don't want money, I want what's mine. Are you sure? Xavier asked. Running a business with someone who hates you is going to be hell. I know, I said, but I'm not giving up. Xavier was quiet for a moment. Okay, then we fight. The next week, Xavier filed a lawsuit. We sued for reinstatement, damages, and legal fees. Victoria countersued, claiming I had abandoned the partnership. The legal battle had officially begun. For the next 3 months, it was brutal. Depositions, document requests, interrogatories. Victoria and I sat in the same room multiple times, answering questions from lawyers. We never spoke to each other. During one deposition, her lawyer asked me, "Why do you want to return to a company where you're clearly not wanted?" I looked him directly in the eye. Because it's mine. Because I built it. And because nobody has the right to steal it from me. Victoria looked away. In another deposition, Xavier asked Victoria, "Did you ever intend to share ownership with your brother?" She hesitated. "Of course." "Then why did you file the amendment without his signature?" I thought it was the right thing to do. You thought removing your partner without his knowledge was the right thing to do? She didn't answer. The judge assigned to our case was a woman named Judge Patricia Holloway. She was known for being fair but tough. Our first hearing was scheduled for mid-November. Xavier and I prepared relentlessly. The judge is going to ask why you want to return, Xavier said. You need a good answer. I want what's fair, I said. That's not enough. You need to show that you can contribute, that the company needs you. I thought about it. I have ideas, plans for expansion, new clients I could bring in. Perfect, Xavier said. We'll present that. The hearing was held on a cold Thursday morning. The courtroom was small and intimidating. Judge Holloway sat at the bench, reading through documents. Victoria sat on one side with Preston. I sat on the other with Xavier. Let's proceed, Judge Holloway said. Mr. Cole, you may present your case. Xavier stood. Your Honor, this case is straightforward. Mr. Blake Montgomery is a 50% owner of Montgomery Solutions LLC. He was wrongfully terminated by his sister, who attempted to illegally alter the ownership structure. We're asking for his immediate reinstatement and damages for lost income. He presented the original partnership agreement, the invalid amendment, and the evidence of my continued involvement. Judge Holloway listened carefully. Then Preston stood. Your Honor, Miss Victoria Montgomery has been the sole operator of this company for 2 years. Mr. Montgomery's involvement decreased significantly, forcing her to take on all responsibilities. The termination was a business decision, not a personal one. Judge Holloway looked at both lawyers. I've reviewed the documents. The amendment is clearly invalid. Mr. Montgomery's ownership is intact. Preston started to object, but she held up her hand. However, she continued, I'm concerned about the practical implications. Forcing 2 estranged siblings to run a company together rarely works. Your Honor, Xavier said, Mr. Montgomery isn't asking to be handed control. He's asking for what he's legally entitled to. Judge Holloway nodded. I understand. I'm ordering mediation. You have 60 days to reach an agreement. If you can't, I'll make a ruling. We left the courtroom in silence. Mediation started 2 weeks later. The mediator was a retired judge named Harold Fletcher. He was patient and calm, which was good because Victoria and I were anything but. Let's start with goals, he said. Blake, what do you want? I want my partnership restored, I said. I want equal say in decisions. I want respect. Victoria, what do you want? I want him gone, she said bluntly. I'll buy him out, fair market value. Blake, are you willing to sell? I shook my head. No, Harold sighed. Then we need to find a way for you to work together. That's impossible, Victoria said. Why? Harold asked. She looked at me for the first time in months, because I don't trust him. Why not? Because he's trying to take everything I built. I felt anger rising. You didn't build it alone. I built it after you stopped caring. I never stopped caring. You pushed me out. Harold raised his hand. Stop, let's take a break. We sat in separate rooms for 20 minutes. When we came back, Harold tried a different approach. What if we restructure the partnership, he suggested. Blake handles operations, Victoria handles strategy, clear divisions of responsibility. Victoria considered it. Maybe. I'm willing to try, I said. Good, Harold said. Let's draft a proposal. We spent the next 4 sessions working out details. Slowly, painfully, we built a framework. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. By December, we had a tentative agreement. I would return as COO. Victoria would remain CEO. We would make major decisions jointly. We would meet weekly. If we couldn't agree on something, we'd bring in a neutral third party. It wasn't what I wanted, but it was something. Xavier reviewed the agreement. It's solid, he said. But are you sure about this? No, I admitted, but I'm tired of fighting. We signed the agreement in Harold's office. Victoria and I still didn't speak, but we shook hands. It felt hollow. I returned to the office the following Monday. The employees were shocked to see me. Some looked happy, others looked nervous. Victoria called a meeting. Blake is returning as COO, she announced. We're moving forward as partners. I expect everyone to treat him with respect. Her voice was flat, emotionless, but it was something. I spent the first week relearning the company. So much had changed. There were new clients, new employees, new systems. I felt like a stranger in my own business, but I worked hard. I learned quickly, and slowly I started to find my place again. The employees warmed up to me. They remembered me. They respected me. One of them, a project manager named Quinn, pulled me aside. "I'm glad you're back," she said. "Things were tense before." "What do you mean?" She hesitated. Victoria was stressed. She made a lot of decisions that didn't make sense. We needed balance. I realized then that maybe this wasn't just about me. Maybe the company needed this too. For the next 6 months, Victoria and I worked together. It was awkward and uncomfortable, but we made it work. We held our weekly meetings. We made decisions together. We didn't become friends, but we became functional. The company started to improve. Revenue increased, employee morale improved, clients noticed the change. One day, Victoria actually thanked me for a project I completed. It was brief, almost reluctant, but it was something. I started to think maybe we could make this work long term. Then everything changed. In June, I received a call from Xavier. "Blake," he said, "I need you to come to my office. Now." I could hear urgency in his voice. When I arrived, he looked grim. "I received something disturbing today," he said. "An anonymous email." "About what?" He turned his computer screen toward me. It was a financial report, company expenses. But some of the numbers didn't make sense. "What am I looking at?" I asked. "Look at these transactions," Xavier said, pointing. "Large payments to a vendor called Brightline Consulting. Does that name mean anything to you?" I shook my head. "No. It should. According to these records, the company has paid Brightline over $200,000 in the past 2 years. I stared at the screen. "For what?" "That's what we need to find out." Xavier pulled up more documents. I did some digging. Brightline Consulting is a shell company, and guess who owns it? My stomach dropped. Victoria. Exactly. I felt sick. "She's been stealing from the company?" I asked. "It looks that way," Xavier said. "These payments aren't for actual services, they're going straight into her personal account." I sat down trying to process this. "How much total?" "At least 250,000, maybe more. I'm still going through records." I thought about the past 6 months, the progress we'd made, the tentative peace, all of it was built on lies. "What do we do?" I asked. "We need to verify everything first," Xavier said. "Then we need to confront her." "Shouldn't we go to the police?" "Eventually, yes. But we need solid evidence first. Right now, this is enough to raise questions, but not enough to prove fraud." Over the next week, Xavier hired a forensic accountant. Her name was Simone Park, and she was brilliant. She went through every financial record for the past 3 years. What she found was worse than we thought. Victoria had created multiple shell companies. She'd been funneling money through fake invoices, fake contracts, fake consulting fees. The total was close to $400,000. "This is systematic fraud," Simone said. "This wasn't a mistake, this was intentional." I felt betrayed all over again. The sister I grew up with, the partner I trusted, had been stealing from our company, from me. Xavier called a meeting. "We need to decide how to handle this." "We go to the authorities," I said immediately. "Are you sure?" "That means criminal charges. Prison time." I thought about my parents, about what they would want, but I also thought about justice, about right and wrong. "I'm sure," I said. We scheduled a meeting with Victoria. We didn't tell her why. When she arrived at Xavier's office, she looked confused. "What's this about?" she asked. Xavier didn't waste time. He slid the financial reports across the table. "We know about Brightline Consulting," he said, "and the other shell companies." Victoria's face went white. She looked at the documents, then at me. "Blake, don't," I said quietly. "Just don't." She sat down heavily. "I can explain." "You stole from our company," I said. "From me. There's nothing to explain." "I was going to pay it back," she said desperately. "I was in debt. I made some bad investments. I just needed time." Xavier shook his head. "You created fake companies. You filed fake invoices. This wasn't borrowing. This was fraud." Victoria started crying. "Please, I'm sorry. I'll pay everything back. Just don't turn me in." I wanted to feel sympathy. She was my sister. But all I felt was anger. "You tried to steal the company from me," I said. "And when that didn't work, you stole money instead." I was desperate. "So was I when you fired me. Did you care then?" She had no answer. Xavier pulled out another document. "We're giving you 2 options. Option 1, you resign immediately, repay every dollar you stole, and sign over your ownership to Blake. We won't press charges." "And option 2, she asked quietly. "We go to the police. You face fraud charges. You probably go to prison." Victoria covered her face with her hands. How long do I have to decide? 24 hours, Xavier said. She left without another word. The next day, Victoria called Xavier. I'll take option 1, she said. We met at a lawyer's office to sign the papers. Victoria transferred her 50% ownership to me. She signed a repayment agreement. She had 30 days to return the first installment. When everything was signed, she looked at me one last time. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't respond. She left, and I never saw her again. The following week, I became the sole owner of Montgomery Solutions LLC. The company I had helped build was finally completely mine. But the victory felt hollow. I had won, but I'd lost my sister in the process. I called a company meeting to explain the transition. Victoria has resigned for personal reasons, I said. I'll be taking over as sole owner and CEO. Our mission and values remain the same. The employees seemed relieved more than anything. Quinn approached me afterward. What really happened? I couldn't tell her everything. Let's just say we had irreconcilable differences. She nodded, understanding. Over the next few months, I rebuilt the leadership team. I promoted Quinn to VP of Operations. I hired a new CFO with strict financial oversight. I implemented new systems to prevent fraud, and slowly, the company healed. Revenue grew, culture improved, clients trusted us again. 1 year later, Montgomery Solutions was thriving. We'd doubled our revenue. We'd hired 15 new employees. We'd won industry awards. I stood in the conference room where Victoria had fired me, looking out at the city. So much had changed. I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the legal battle, the fraud. Part of me wondered if I should have just walked away, but another part of me knew I'd made the right choice. This company was mine. I'd earned it, I'd fought for it, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. Quinn knocked on the door. Blake, the investors are here. I turned around. Send them in. We were meeting with potential investors for an expansion project, something Victoria had never wanted to do. The meeting went well. They were impressed with our growth and vision. By the end, they agreed to fund the expansion. After they left, I sat alone in the conference room. I pulled out my phone and looked at an old photo of Victoria and me. We were young, happy, standing in front of our first office. I wondered where she was now, what she was doing. I'd heard through mutual contacts that she'd moved to another state. She was working a regular job, paying back the money slowly. Part of me hoped she was okay, but I didn't reach out. Some bridges once burned can't be rebuilt. That evening, I went home to my apartment. It was quiet and peaceful. I poured myself a drink and sat on the balcony. My phone buzzed. A message from Xavier. Congratulations on the investor meeting. You've come a long way. I smiled and typed back. Thanks for everything. Anytime, you earned this. I thought about what he said. Earned. I had earned this, through hard work, persistence, and refusing to give up. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the door, there was a package on the doorstep. No return address. I brought it inside and opened it carefully. Inside was a handwritten note and a check. The note said, Blake, I know I can never undo what I did. But I want to make things right. This is the first payment. I'll send the rest over the next year. I'm sorry for everything. The check was for $50,000. I stared at it for a long time. Part of me wanted to tear it up, to reject her apology. But another part of me understood that this was her way of trying to heal. I deposited the check the next day. Not because I forgave her, but because the company deserved to be made whole. Over the next year, Victoria sent regular payments. She never missed one. We never spoke, but I could feel her trying to make amends. By the time the debt was paid off, 2 years had passed. Montgomery Solutions was now one of the top companies in our industry. We'd expanded to 3 offices. We had over 100 employees. Everything I dreamed of when we first started. I hired a new leadership coach to help me become a better CEO. She taught me about forgiveness, about letting go. Holding on to anger only hurts you, she said, not them. I knew she was right. One afternoon, I was cleaning out old files when I found the original partnership agreement. The one that had saved me. I held it in my hands, remembering everything. The fear, the uncertainty, the triumph. I put it in a frame and hung it in my office, a reminder of where I'd been and how far I'd come. Quinn knocked on my door. Blake, there's someone here to see you. Who? She didn't say, but she asked for you specifically. I walked to the lobby, and there was Victoria. She looked different, thinner, older, but also somehow lighter. We stared at each other for a long moment. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi," I replied. "I know I have no right to be here," she said. "But I wanted to tell you in person. I paid off the last installment this morning." "I know," I said. "I received it. And I wanted to say I'm sorry, really sorry, for everything." I looked at her, at my sister, the person I'd once trusted more than anyone. "Thank you for saying that," I said. Can we talk?" she asked. I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no, to close that door forever, but another part of me remembered my parents, and what they'd wanted for us. "Yes," I said, "we can talk." We went to a coffee shop down the street. It was awkward at first, neither of us knew what to say. Finally, Victoria spoke. "I've been in therapy, trying to understand why I did what I did. And I was jealous," she admitted, "of you. You were always better with people. Clients loved you, employees respected you. I felt invisible. I didn't know what to say." "That doesn't excuse anything," she continued, "but it's the truth. I let my insecurity turn into cruelty." "Why didn't you just talk to me?" I asked. "Pride," she said. "Stupid pride." We sat in silence. "I don't expect you to forgive me," Victoria said. "I just wanted you to know I'm trying to be better." "I can see that," I said. "The company looks amazing," she said. "You did a great job." "Thank you." "I mean it. You were always the better leader. I just couldn't admit it." I felt something shift inside me. Not forgiveness, exactly, but understanding. "I'm glad you're doing okay," I said. She smiled sadly. "I'm trying." We talked for another hour, about our parents, about old memories, about everything except the business. When we left, we hugged, briefly, carefully. "Take care of yourself," I said. "You too," she replied. I watched her walk away. I didn't know if we'd ever be close again, but at least we'd started healing. 6 months later, I received an invitation. Victoria was getting married. I was surprised. I hadn't known she was even dating anyone. The invitation was simple, elegant, and it included a handwritten note. "I know this might be awkward, but you're my brother and I'd like you there. No pressure." I thought about it for a week. Xavier advised me to do whatever felt right. "There's no wrong answer here," he said. "This is about what you need." I decided to go. The wedding was small and beautiful. Victoria looked happy, truly happy. Her fiancé seemed kind and genuine. When Victoria saw me, her eyes filled with tears. "You came," she said. "Of course," I replied. We didn't talk much during the reception, but we didn't need to. Being there was enough. As I drove home that night, I felt lighter than I had in years. The anger I'd been carrying was finally starting to fade. I realized that forgiveness isn't about forgetting. It's about choosing not to let the past control your future. 3 years after everything happened, Montgomery Solutions celebrated its 10th anniversary. We held a big party for employees, clients, and partners. I gave a speech about the company's journey. I talked about the challenges we'd faced, the lessons we'd learned. I didn't mention Victoria by name, but I talked about the importance of integrity. "Success isn't just about profit," I said. "It's about doing things the right way. It's about treating people with respect. It's about building something that lasts." The room erupted in applause. After the party, I went back to my office. I looked at the framed partnership agreement on the wall. That piece of paper had changed everything. It had given me proof, power, justice. But more importantly, it had taught me about resilience, about standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, about refusing to give up. My phone buzzed. A text from Victoria. "Congratulations on 10 years. You built something amazing. I'm proud of you." I smiled and typed back. "Thank you." We weren't as close as we used to be. We probably never would be, but we'd found a kind of peace. And that was enough. Looking back now, I realize the whole experience changed me. It made me stronger, more confident, more aware of my own worth. I learned that sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most. But I also learned that you don't have to let that define you. You can fight back. You can stand up. You can win. Not through revenge or anger, but through patience, evidence, and integrity. The partnership papers Victoria tried to erase became the very thing that saved me. The truth always has a way of surfacing. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes it takes effort, but it always emerges. Today, Montgomery Solutions is everything I dreamed it would be. A company built on honesty, respect, and hard work. Victoria isn't part of it anymore, and that's okay. Some partnerships aren't meant to last, but the lessons from that partnership will stay with me forever. I learned that documents matter, that contracts matter, that protecting yourself legally isn't paranoia, it's wisdom. I learned that family relationships don't excuse unethical behavior. And I learned that sometimes the best victory isn't dramatic or explosive. Sometimes it's quiet and steady. It's showing up every day and doing the work. It's building something real, something lasting. It's letting your success speak louder than any argument ever could. As I sit in my office now looking out at the city, I feel grateful. Not for the betrayal or the pain, but for what I became because of it. Stronger, wiser, more resilient, and absolutely certain of one thing. I earned every bit of what I have. Nobody gave it to me, nobody can take it away. And that's the greatest victory of all.